For as long as I can remember, I have been obsessed with understanding like how successful people structure their lives. Like I was really fascinated, but what was it that set successful people apart in being able to like accomplish all of their goals and build wealth and really build like wealth sustainably? I've always really been fascinated by like millionaire mindsets, like what do rich people do in their day? And based off of that, I try to figure out like what are the practices that work for me and like what are the things that I could do that adapts sort of these mindsets and this perspective into my life that will help me in my journey to getting to where I want to be. And so in this, in my pursuit to create a lifestyle that will not only bring me joy but like help build habits of success, I have been brought to, as I'm sure you can guess, the iconic morning routine. In today's episode, I will be diving into the hype of the morning routine, how I cultivated a realistic morning routine that fits my lifestyle and allows me to grow, and some science backed tips that you can try to improve your morning routine. I don't know about y'all, but I am not a morning person, like at all. I love to sleep. If there is one event that I love, I look forward to, I cherish, I will never give it up, it is sleep. I love it. I crave it. I need it. As much as like I wish I could sleep all day, like I love to sleep. Like when I'm sleeping, I am sleeping. Okay. Like I look forward to it. I look forward to dreaming. I love it. But I'm not a morning person. I feel like the best time for me in the morning was really like in my childhood when I had to wake up for like school for 8 a.m. I don't know how in the hell I did that. I think it's probably because my parents were the dictators of my life at that point. So like your girl didn't really have much of a choice. But I'm really not like a morning person. And so like every time I would look into what millionaires or like what are successful CEOs doing, like even at like panel discussions with like really incredible women that have achieved so much, a lot of them would say like, yeah, I wake up at 6 a.m., I wake up at 5 a.m., I wake up at 4 a.m. And I'm just like, how? How? Why? And how? But why? Like I just, it's just like, I don't know if it's also because, like, for the past chunk of years, I have been, like, living not in my home country where they have seasons and, like, yo, girl is not used to that. And I'm not, like, really used to waking up without the sun. And, like, I really love waking up with the sun. So, like, it was really, like, hard for me, I think, to understand, like, how are these people waking up so early? And when I was a kid, like my dad has always been one of those people that wakes up at like 5 in the morning and goes and walks our dogs and is like just up and ready for the day. And I would just be like, you crazy, bro. You crazy. I don't know how you do it. But he's just like had this routine his whole life. And I've always aspired to it. And every time I look at like morning routines on YouTube for inspiration, it always starts off with some girl waking up at 5 or 6 in the morning. And I'm just like, teach me your ways. Like, how are you doing this? And it's weird because it's like, on one level, I don't like, okay, some people are like, okay, if you want to wake up early, to have a good morning routine, you got to go to bed early. And don't get me wrong, I love to sleep, right? But I also like can't just fall asleep at 9 at p.m., you know what I mean? Or 8. Like I just feel like I have so much to do in my day that by the time I'm ready to like go to sleep, it's like late. Or like if I'm trying to accommodate different like schedules, like sometimes that will require me to stay up later. And as a result, like nobody got time to wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning. Like I'm deep in my sleep, enjoying my dreams, like last year I tried at some point, like I was trying to do this thing where I was like getting up for 6 a.m. yoga because I figured out that for me at least, the thing was that I needed to have a reason to wake up in the morning, because if it was just because I said I was going to have a morning routine, yeah, that was not a good enough like justification to when my alarm goes off at that early for me to be like, okay, let's get out of the bed so I can go sit in my living room for like 3 hours and just contemplate why the hell am I up this early when I could be in bed. I tried to have, because I realized like when I did wake up early and like I did it consistently, it was mainly because I was trying not to miss class, because I was one of those girls that like, or students that actually went to like lecture. I know, shocking. And I mean, that's how I learned, and it gave me a reason, to be motivated throughout my days. And that was like the only way I would get up for like 8 a.m. is because I had 8 a.m. yoga when I was in college. And so I decided, okay, let me try and apply that sort of mentality to my morning routine last year. And so I tried, to have 6 a.m. yoga and wake up. But again, like waking up in the dark and the cold is just, is there is no motivation in my body to put myself through that. Like waking up when it's dark outside and then I go outside and the first thing I feel on my chest is just brick coldness. I would much rather be in my warm bed. Like, why am I? It's like I get to the point where I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, who am I trying to prove? I'm like, sweetie, it's cold out here. Can we please go back in the bed? And eventually that won. And I don't regret it because frankly, I felt like everybody like's body works differently. And I realized like because I grew up in the Caribbean, my body loves to wake up with the sun. My body loves to be like basked in the sun as much as I would complain about heat and it being hot all the time. Like my circadian rhythm was built around like following the sun. And so like when I have been living in climates that haven't been so sunny all year round, it really impacts the way that I sleep and how I wake up. And because I'm not able to like have a great ass morning routine, it like just makes me feel some type of way, And especially because there's like all this hype around the morning routine, having like a cute romantic morning routine. Like I have always struggled with being a morning person. Like I can't eat that early in the day. I just don't really feel like super energetic that early in the day. Like I just want to chill. I want to sleep, in all honesty, until later in the day. But then at that point, I just feel like I wasted the whole day, So it's a constant struggle. There was this quote by Mel Robbins. Where did I put it? Una momento. Okay, I found it. So there's this quote by Mel Robbins that I found, and I absolutely love Mel Robbins. I feel like she has a lot of interesting perspectives to really help like change how you go about your day and how you like live your life and overcome doubt and like overcome kind of just like the grudge to get out of bed or like go out and actually achieve your goal. But she has this quote about like kind of the morning routine and just like the mindset of successful folks that went like this. It's not about when you get up, but how you get up. And for me, like that, I felt like gave me permission to be like, it's okay if I don't wake up at 5 a.m., if I don't wake up at 6 a.m., if I don't wake up at 7 a.m., or 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Okay? Like it is totally a-okay. What matters is how I get up and how cultivating a headspace, an environment that makes me feel energized to take on the day for however long it is that I design my day to be. Because I feel like a lot of the time when it comes to like cultivating morning routines, like people just try to follow trends of what they see. And I'm guilty of that. But I realize like following these trends is cool and all, but it may not necessarily be what's best for me. And I had to realize like I don't need to follow the pack. I can kind of just learn from these trends, learn about the process, the how it's the system of routine and ritual that creates sort of this environment that allows you to manifest the life that you want and the space that you need to be in. And I needed to adapt that to me. And that takes a lot of just like inner reflection to really understand like what are the things that I need to do in my day or in my morning that puts me in the right headspace to really tackle the day. Because I'm sure like we all don't have days that feel great when you get out of bed. Like you might just feel like maybe you didn't sleep well the night before, or like you woke up maybe to like bad news, or it's just like shitty weather, or you're just not looking forward to going to work for whatever reason. And like having that kind of like, or maybe you even just had a bad dream, but like entering the day in that headspace, like pretty much cripples like the rest of your day, because you're in this mindset of just like, today is not great. I don't feel 100. And it gets to you, one way or the other. It just like ends up hijacking the whole day. And it's like, how do you break that of when you're not feeling your best, creating rituals that allow you to feel energized so that you're in the right headspace to go out and tackle your day. And that's kind of how I've been thinking about morning routines as of late, because I feel like for me, it's like, I never really felt like the way that I went about my day was anywhere close to like how you're supposed to go about your day. Like I don't eat breakfast most times, which I often feel guilty about. And I'm like the type of person that wakes up, gets out of bed, and literally goes on her phone. Like it's not good in that regard, because like I would see like, oh, like you should give yourself space in the morning. And it's like, but I have things that I'm trying to accomplish. So I'm like trying to share my podcast and like trying to see what folks are up to. And like, I get that like going on social media first thing in the morning is not good for your mental space, because you're giving your attention to, otherness instead of focusing it on your internal self. But again, it's like, how do you kind of create habits that allow you to feel energized first thing in the morning, so that even if the weather sucks, like you don't let that kind of bog you down. And the way that I really started to think about, okay, like how do I build my morning routine? Because it's like for me this year, I'm really focused on understanding myself, understanding my habits, understanding my temperament, understanding just like how I like to be rewarded, how I like to be celebrated, how I like to be loved, how I like to be supported. It takes a lot of like inner reflection. And the way that I wanted to frame this, especially for my morning routine, because I'm kind of in this place where I'm really focused on like building systems and routines that I can enjoy, so that not only like am I building habits that will get me to like my best self, but like the journey itself is enjoyable. So I actually look forward to it. And when I started to think like that, start from backwards. So if you were living your best life, like what would your ideal morning look like? And that was like a really hard question, because like if I, had my ideal morning routine, like your girl have a chef who's making her breakfast, or like I'm able to live on the island and eat, the foods that I grew up eating, or I have access to just like the foods that I really love to eat for breakfast, which I don't get here in the US. And it was just interesting for me to understand like what were the things that if I had all my millions, right? What was it about my day that would be different from my day to day? And like, what was it that it could be the same? Because at the end of the day, like, even if you have your millions, if you have like a shitty morning routine, like your morning routine is shitty, whether you had the millions or you don't. Yeah, it's really thinking about like, what would that ideal morning look like? Like, what were the key experiences about that morning that I felt would leave me feeling like a baddie, And I really was like, well, I want to, like, when I wake up, I have like this exposure to light. I really want to have like my morning filled with like music that just makes me feel great to be alive, get some movement in the body early in the morning. I want, for me, I love water. Water is like my drink. And I was thinking, what are ways that I could incorporate water into my morning, but it is more intentional. So like having tea with collagen, or, taking vitamin D, especially because I live in non-ideal climate for melanated people. And just like little things like that, like practicing 10 to 15 minutes of learning early in the morning, or just like figuring out like, do I like to meditate in the morning? And would that be like the best use of my time to give me the headspace that I need? And it's also like, I had to realize like my morning routine, my ideal morning routine as well, would like need to adapt to just like how I'm feeling that day. Because one thing that I didn't like about this idea of a morning routine was that it was very rigid. Like you have to follow this specific sequence of steps to have like your morning routine. And I didn't really agree with that, because I felt like some days maybe I couldn't meditate in the morning, and other days maybe I wasn't really feeling up for journaling. And I needed to give myself sort of the flexibility to adapt my morning routine, but to have kind of like a basket of activities that I could choose from, that I know that if I pick from this bucket, it will leave me feeling like I am set to have the best day of my life. And every day should be like that. And it doesn't, like, you don't have to wait until you reach a certain income or you're at a certain stage in your life to create a morning routine where you are still living your best life today. Even if you maybe don't have all like the most luxurious products that you wish you had in your morning routine, you can still use other things that kind of fill that or give you the same level of enjoyment that you can have that today. You know, like there's nothing stopping you from having that ideal morning routine, you know. And with that, like I really just started to think about like creating systems that if you keep them, bring reward. Because for me, like I wanted to shift, because I feel like pretty much like up until recently, really, I have very much been like goal oriented in the sense that like I want to achieve X, and what brings me joy was achieving X, not necessarily the grind to achieve X. And so what would happen is I would achieve X and look back and be like, well, I didn't really feel like I never felt like I could completely appreciate the moment, you know, of when it was happening. And I felt like that made me feel like I was missing out on life as it was happening to me, because I was so absorbed in the goal and not necessarily in enjoying the process, that when I got to the goal, like that was cool, but like that feeling was so short-lived, it didn't really sustain me. Like I would just move on to the next goal instead of like having a process that I enjoyed, where the goal was important too, but like the process itself was so much fun that I actually enjoy the grind, not so much worrying so much about the goal, because the grind is enjoyable. And so for me, I really had to shift like to making a routine that I actually enjoy, rather than just being obsessed with like what I hope the end goal would be. So like when I first would think about my morning routine, I was like, oh, like I really need to be super productive. Like I need to get tons of stuff done for like all the different ventures that I'm thinking about in my head. Like, can I go out? Like, why am I not promoting my pot? You know, just like different stuff like that pretty much. And I realized like, if I didn't do that, like I would start to feel really bad, you know, because I was like, oh, well, you're not on your game. Like you're not doing what you're supposed to, like blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, those voices in your head just get annoying, and it doesn't help you, because then that just makes the next morning more difficult and the next morning more difficult if you're, you know, constantly battling like this. And so I realized like I needed to figure out one, like this way of working was just not working for me. Like it wasn't leaving me feeling the way that I want to feel. And it definitely wasn't like as much as, okay, your girl is still getting to her goals, there's better ways to do it. And I realized like I had to take the time to step away from just like how I achieve things and reflect on like, okay, is my process of achievement really working for me? Because I didn't feel like it was, you know? And so kind of separating myself from that and realizing like, hey, things got to change. We got to enjoy the process. And I think in doing that, it just made the whole thing more fun, because now I'm not just looking forward to making my millions. Like I'm looking forward to the process of making my millions, which is a lot more fun. And again, like I always used to think like a routine had to be a routine. Like you had to do the same things every time. But for me, like I wouldn't say I have ADHD, but I definitely get bored with the quickness. And so I realized like I had to create a morning routine that was flexible for me, adapting to the seasons, especially because if nature was adapting to the seasons, like why wasn't I? Like why wasn't my way of practicing self-love, my way of planning just like what I focus on, adapting to the seasons as well? Because I realized life is all about cycles, and I also needed to determine what were my cycles. And again, that takes so much like inner reflection to just sit back and be like, what do I like about each of these seasons? What are the things that make it really difficult for me to be productive in certain seasons, especially the cold, you know, because your girl do not like waking up cold. Like, I'm not a fan. And just like, what could I do to make it so that each season even though the weather was changing, even though it wasn't maybe my like preferred climate, I could still be on the top of my game. I could still make the most of it. I could still enjoy like what that season had to offer without feeling like it was taking something away from me, because it absolutely was not in like any shape, way, or form. And a lot of that just was really like coming back to giving yourself permission to look at the problem from a different perspective. And for me, like realizing that I had to let go some of these limiting beliefs that I had around morning routines, to realize like this is my life. You know what I mean? Like, who the hell cares? Like, at the end of the day, if I change my morning routine, the only person that impacts is me. And I should do what works best for me. And adapting with the seasons, like I realize, especially like in fall and winter, for me, like it's really important for me to feel really warm. It's really important for me to feel comfortable. I use that time really to like go deep within my body, to reflect on like my practices, to really like shed limiting beliefs. Because, you know, in the fall, like the leaves are falling, you know, the weather is changing, I feel like nature goes more within itself, you know, because it's not producing, you know, animals are hibernating. And I realized, like, how could I mimic the cycle of nature within just my routines and how I care for myself? And like in the fall and winter, now I'm practicing things like red light exposure. And I kind of get more into like why I'm doing that as well from like science perspective, but giving myself like permission to just change with the seasons. Like now as much as it seems silly, I'm definitely the type of person that walks around my apartment barefooted, but like because I was having like issues with my feet and just like feeling so tight and so cold, like I realized I was like, bro, you need to bundle up. Like if this is how you're feeling, like you should do something about it. Like actually bundle up. Like it's okay to have to wear a couple more layers, even though it's more effort. Like you'll feel so much better. And like just doing little things like that, because again, I'm an island girl. I don't understand temperature or like seasons or weather differences. I just put on clothes and go outside and figure it out from there, you know? And so like as the, you know, world goes through, you know, the season of letting go, I use kind of the fall and like the winter season to really reflect on just like where my life is at and where I want it to be. And I kind of use that time to plan for the next year. So like even though like in December, pretty much I'm already planning for the next quarter and trying to figure out for each quarter, especially because each quarter has like different seasons, what are the types of things that I could do in that morning routine specifically for that season. And so today I wanted to also share with you guys kind of like what my morning routine is for this season, quarter one, which is like still pretty much like wintry fall. Well, nah, it's just winter, probably going into spring. I'm gonna say, what am I saying? It's full blown winter, Nicole. It's not going into spring. So yeah, what I wanted to share with you guys my morning routine for this quarter. And the way that I do it now is I created my own like planner. And the reason I did that was because one, I felt like traditional planners just weren't cutting it for me. But I created a section specifically for like my morning routine, and I have kind of this quote, like, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And I realized like, and I also have this question that I ask myself is like, what does your ideal morning look like? And so because the winter, like this first quarter, you know, Jan, Feb, March is pretty much gray and dreary. It was important for me to make sure that my health was like in the best state possible during these gloomy mornings, because I know for me that's where I really struggle the most to like find motivation to get out of bed, especially when it's dark and gray and not super bright outside, and it just does not make me feel like my best self. And so I needed to create a morning routine to energize me, because I know my environment naturally wouldn't, just given the circumstances. And as a melanated person, this means I have to take vitamin D, even though yo girl, pills are not for me, like at all. I cannot swallow pills. It is my number one kryptonite. I cannot do it. I don't care. You're probably like, Nicole, you're overreacting. I am not. I don't care how small they are. I don't care how big they are. It is not happening. And so vitamin D has been one of those things that I've had to learn the hard way is super important for melanated people. Actually, it's not even just melanated people. Like, there's so many people that probably, especially like given this whole COVID and everything, like everybody should be taking vitamin D like on the regular, you know, especially like vitamin D is super important to your immune strength. And like as much as our body makes it naturally when it's exposed to sunlight, when you're living in climates like in the Pacific Northwest or just anywhere that's not along the equator, it's really hard for your body to perform and produce vitamin D at like peak levels. Like, it's funny because growing up, like, this was never a problem for me. And I used to get my blood tested. Like, I had my blood tested before I even left the island and everything was straight. And literally in like the span of just 4 years, I became deficient in vitamin D just living in these colder climates. And I didn't even realize like the impact that that was having on my energy levels, on just my mood. I was oblivious, okay, because I'm the type of person that believes I'm strong and like that nothing, you know, I could just take on the world. So I don't maybe notice like if I'm feeling maybe like lower energy and stuff like that. Like, I just be go, go, go. Okay. But I realized like because in these winter months, like it's really hard for my body to be in like that peak state because I'm not in an environment that my body is used to, that I have to supplement and take vitamin D, even though I struggle. So I'm very patient with myself when I do it. Obviously, I let it melt in my mouth before I swallow. Which is like probably like the worst thing. But luckily vitamin doesn't taste bad. So it's okay. One of the other things that I do right now in the mornings is take tea with collagen. And the reason why I take collagen is one, well, it's like good for your hair and your nails and like your face and your skin, you know, all that good jazz. But the reason I take it is because collagen is made up of like aminos. And right now, like I'm really stretching out my back because that's what's been like messing up my foot this whole time. This is why, guys, it's important to stretch. Okay. As someone who's like the least fit person that I know, I definitely would never stretch because, I did stretch, but not like how you supposed to be stretching. Like every time you work out, like I didn't do that. Like I just went to the gym, did what I had to do and left. And I never really like took stretching seriously. And I realize now that and like just like not being in proper alignment with your body can create so much stress in your body that like can really hamper just like the way you're living your life. So sometimes like if you're feeling like stiffness in your back or like you're just not feeling on your game, like potentially consider that maybe your body is literally out of alignment. And like for me, just stretching and putting my body back into alignment, it is crazy how much different I feel. Like I am literally shook like how good my like hips and my legs feel from just like fixing my alignment through stretching. Like it's crazy. And it's surprising because it's not the first time I've been told I was out of alignment, but your girl don't listen. So I had to learn, unfortunately, the hard way. So I take collagen to kind of help with just like dealing with like the soreness that I feel from stretching out my muscles, just kind of helping lubricate my protein development, you know, and just like giving my body some tools to just help in the restoration of self, you know. And in it I get cute, what am I saying? I get strong nails and luscious hair. So win. And tea is because I'm not a coffee person. Yeah. I don't know. Like I feel like I produce enough energy as is. Like, do I need the extra caffeine? Not really. And I just have never really liked the taste of coffee. So I drink the tea. And so one of the other things that I'm practicing in this quarter is to read 50 pages in the morning to kind of just give my brain some fuel before I like go on my phone and like get distracted by social media and all that. I want to like educate myself because for me, like in this phase in my life, like I really want to educating myself is like my number one key to helping me build like the wealth that I need. I need to know. I need to inform myself how to build the ventures that I want, and that requires like reading because there's a lot I don't know. Part of that is I'm trying to implement that early in my morning. I'm really trying to eat 3 meals a day because when I was a kid I used to eat 4 meals a day, but my parents managed my whole life, which was fantastic in that regard. But as I like went out on my own In college, the food was terrible. So I definitely, like, my whole eating structure got screwed from the onset. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm the type of person that really like gets out. Like, I used to be the person that would get out of bed and just roll into my first meeting, like brush my teeth, all that, and just roll into my first meeting and like start my day like without even like feeding myself, because I wasn't hungry. I just didn't care. Yeah. And so I'm trying to shift that, because I think nutrition is key. And as much as like, I feel like humans today probably do eat a lot more than humans have in general. Like, I think it's important for me in this stage of my life to eat 3 meals a day where I'm getting like nutritious meals. The issue with that is your girl hates to cook. So I'm still trying to figure like the best way that I like to get my breakfast, but it is a priority for me in my morning routine. And again, because I'm mentioned stretching, like I stretch now every morning. I put some movement in my body when I'm listening to good music, when I wake up, like that helps kind of just give me the energy to jam out like in the morning, and I love it. And then after I do that, I kind of just go through like my mental affirmations, about how your girl is just queen. What is that one track? Let me see. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am divine. Your girl is fine. Where is that?
I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am rich, I am that bitch. I am gonna go get that bag, and I am not gonna take your shit. I am respected, well respected. I'm a queen, I'm a dream. I do what I wanna do, and I'm who I wanna be. I am me, bitch. That's why BT, your man got his eye on me, but I need see.
Okay, you get the point. But yeah, I like go through my affirmations and, just make me feel like really good about myself, like early in the morning, like what Tatia mentioned, like breathing life into who you are. Like ever since that convo, have been all about it, like really just breathing life into me. And one of the other things that I do, especially in the wintertime, is red light exposure. And the reason that I do that is because science proves that like having red light exposure first thing in the morning improves just like your overall mood, your vitamin D production, and improves like your visibility early in the morning. And it's also good for your skin. So like, why not? So I do that as well. And I don't really know how I feel about it. It's something that I'm trying, and we'll see how we do. But that's kind of like where my morning routine is right now. I have other things that like I might allow in. So like, obviously I might like meditate. Sometimes I would do a fasted breakfast. I might journal on some mornings. Some mornings I make my bed. I will tell you, I'm definitely not one of those people that makes their bed every day, primarily because like my boyfriend and I wake up at like different times sometimes. And yeah. And also I don't know if I would consider it laziness, but I have like this perspective of like, well, I'm just going to mess it up again. So like, why? But it is something that I have in here as like, making my bed is something that I could do on some days if it feels like it's the right, environment, and that will help me just, feel maybe more empowered that day, depending on if that's what I need. And that's like pretty much like my morning routine right now. Like I really do try to start and listen to really good music in my day, or like have a good podcast, or just like really try to surround myself in like creating a vibe that makes me feel excited to be alive. So maybe I might wake up and like in the living room set really soft lighting, play some like lo-fi beats, really just like set the vibe for the day, make myself just feel good to just be alive and exist in this world. And I think that's like super important, because like we are alive, every day that we exist is like an opportunity to go out and to create and to influence and grow this incredible world that we're a part of. And making sure that you feel inspired and all powerful first thing in the morning is like super important, because it's like when you're feeling your best, like you do your best, when you're not feeling great, you're maybe more like closed in. And I think that's totally normal. But it's like, if we can figure out routines and habits that help us just feel good, do it. And with that, I just wanted to kind of like talk about like some tips that you could try to kind of spice up your morning routine that's kind of like backed by science. And I've kind of mentioned some of them already, but like red light exposure, sunlight exposure first thing in the morning. If you're in an area that's like really bright. Like if you're on St. Martin, wake up, go outside, feel that sun on your skin, feel it on your back, just like say gratitude to the sun because it's so important. And I feel like we just take the sun for granted. Another thing that I feel like is super important for like your morning routine, and I definitely am one that should probably take this advice, is like creating a consistent circadian cycle. And even if you adapt it by season, like making sure that it's at least consistent. So like going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time makes it easier for your body to adjust to a specific schedule. This is definitely something that I don't do because I feel like my days like call for different things. And yeah, but it's something that I definitely am striving towards. I'm not there yet, but we're working on it. You know, we works in progress. And, you know, meditation is obviously really great first thing in the morning. It kind of just gives you mental space early in the day so that you feel like you have sort of the spaciousness and the energy to deal with any of the stresses that might come your way that day. Because if you ground yourself early in the morning, then it's easy to kind of return to that place of groundness when the world tries to take you out of it. And sometimes, like, I feel like with meditation, I also realized like I had to kind of let go of like what was the stereotype of what meditation ought to look like and really just do what was best for me, because I felt like meditation was ultimately just finding oneness with oneself, and like a lot of people do that through the breath. But there's other ways to meditate. You know, some people consider exercise and running a form of meditation. Journaling is a form of meditation, or just like laying down and closing your eyes and just doing active breathing is totally fine. Like you don't always have to be seated in lotus to practice meditation. And again, like with that, journaling is super great. I think it's great to kind of just jot down like how you're feeling first thing in the morning, to kind of just express like what is on your mind, like what are your goals and aspirations for the day. This kind of just helps like frame out your day and what's been on your mind, and gives you again like that spaciousness to be like, okay, well, this is what is kind of just on the mental. You put it down onto space and you can kind of prioritize from there, or just like look into what it is that's going on in your psyche that needs to be explored. And again, like for me, another one that I love that was like backed by science is like hydration. Because again, like when you're sleeping, you're not really, you're asleep, you know, you're not really eating anything. Your body's actually detoxing and filtering out things and, you know, repairing all of the chaos of the world from before. And so it's great to really break the morning in with like a glass of water to really rehydrate the body, especially, you know, in the morning after you have your morning pee and all that. It's good to have a glass of water to kind of refresh the body, stimulate your appetite early in the morning, and kind of just give something that's light and easy for your body to deal with before you dive into like a heavy breakfast if you choose to have one. And I think like at the end of the day, like guys, like you should just have a morning routine that makes you feel like your best self. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't have to look like anybody else's, but if it works for you, like that's literally all that matters. And again, like what Mel Robbins said, it's not about when you get up, it's about how you get up. And I love that. Like I love that so much, because at the end of the day, it's like no matter when you start your day, whether it be 10 to 10 or, you know, 9 to 5 or 6 to 9, like at the end of the day, how you spend your energy is not going to be like how anybody else spends their energy. Like I feel like it's ridiculous sometimes for us to compare ourselves to like, even like I look at, you know, these millionaire mindsets and stuff, and I think, well, even if I did everything these people do, I'm not going to just end up in the same place they are, right? Like as much as like you can woo-saw your way to enlightenment, like that's not how you're going to get there. And what you have to do is figure out what works for you, and like creating kind of the consistent habits that allow you to get to that ideal goal, but not sacrificing your enjoyment of the journey. And I feel like the morning routine is a fun way to kind of really just jumpstart like a great day. And it's something that like I used to just be like, I get the hype of it, like it's cute, like I strive to have the cuteness, but I needed it to be something that was really, you know, something that would help me grow and not be a benchmark for me to kind of like judge my own self and my own productivity. And Yeah, like I feel like now that I think about it kind of from this perspective, it just feels so much lighter to have a morning routine, and it doesn't seem like as much of like a daunting task to maintain it. And I hope like from listening to this, like you have a different perspective on your morning routine. I'm curious to hear what you guys do in your morning routine. Definitely let me know on Instagram or commenting, on our Spotify section. To let your girl know, like, what do you do for your morning routine? What's important for you? Like, what makes you feel good in the morning? Because I feel like so many others could probably benefit from what you do. So definitely share. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Chattabox. Like, I really appreciate all of your support. And I will continue to create amazing content for you all to highlight the voices of our people, to create, mindsets and practices that help you be your best self, and hopefully just build a community centered around growth and empowerment. Like, life is to be lived and to be enjoyed, and I want us all to be doing that. So thanks again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Love you. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Chattabox. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to show your support by subscribing to this podcast and leaving us a review. Follow us on Instagram at @the.chattabox for teasers and updates.